I've got probably close to 100 hours myself in restoring this sink. So a lot of these projects that we're gonna see, it's hard to explain, hard to convey how much work went into every little bit. But that's what makes this house and houses like this so special.
Hey, Ryan.
Eddie, come in. It's good to see you.
You as well, man.
All right, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Welcome to my little house here in Palmer Woods. This house was originally built in 1925 here in Palmer Woods. It retains a lot of original characteristics. The kitchen was renovated sometime in the 90s. So this is about the only room in the house that doesn't have the original layout, the original fixtures and furnishings. It was pretty much as you see. It's been renovated. It's a great space for entertaining. It needed a lot of work to bring it back up to meet our standards here. But thankfully, during the previous renovation, the previous owner saved a lot of the really important characteristics. You see the built-in coolers. This is original to the house. Chrysler Coppin built-in fridge. Just a really unique, a lot of these historic homes have them.
Wow.
Not many of them work.
So these are actually original to the house.
They're
from the 1920s.
They're original to the house, and they work, which is just fantastic. That was such a rewarding little part of the journey to be able to save those, get them working again, and now to be able to use them has been awesome. This kitchen is fantastic. I can't imagine a better layout for entertaining, cooking, and just enjoying your home here than this kitchen and this dining room area. I thank the previous owner for keeping the original intent of the home, but opening it up and letting us enjoy it more. So this door, like all the other doors in the house, all the exterior doors and the interior for that matter, is original to the house, solid oak, overall really pretty good condition. Needed a fair bit of elbow grease to get it back to life, sanding, staining, sealing. You can see this front entry, this whole wood front entry has been redone a little bit. It's got dual pane sealed windows here. These are the only windows in the entire house that aren't original leaded glass.
Wow.
This was part of the kitchen remodel back in the 90s. But the door is original, the hardware is original. We'll see more of this as we keep going. This was open, this floor plan down here. I wasn't sure what was going on down here when I started. The flooring in here that got done in the 90s had to be totally ripped out. It was unsalvageable. There was a little bit of water damage, and the place has been shut down for a couple of years. So the cold weather wasn't kind to the flooring in here. So there was some buckling. Ultimately, it wasn't really salvageable. So we tore the flooring in here up. It was cedar wood flooring installed sometime in the 90s. Luckily, it wasn't the original. Underneath was the original flooring, oak. And the cool thing about that is you could see where the original wall partitions had been.
Nice.
So when the kitchen area was renovated, they covered up, probably removed some walls. Now, I don't know what those walls were for. I don't know if it was for a pantry or a half wall or separate dining rooms, but it was really, really cool to see in the original floor plan. And again, it's funny how segmented homes were back then. Really small rooms, lots of corridors, hallways, closets, not what we would consider an ideal layout for homes these days. This is what we would call the butler's pantry, because in 1925, if you had a home this big, you definitely had butlers. So this is the other side of the cooler we saw from the kitchen. This is meant to be able to put food in one side. You can do your preparation, cooking, warming up, everything back here in the pantry. Put your food in one side of the fridge, and then you can go into the kitchen, pull it out the other side when you're ready to serve it. In addition to the cooler, this sink is also really special to me. This was a major hurdle in the process. Really fortunate to have this sink left over. It didn't get looted. It didn't get damaged beyond repair. A lot of these types of sinks in historic homes go missing and get scrapped because they're so damaged. This was in pretty rough shape. You wouldn't recognize it if you saw the original photos. But through a lot of hard work, we brought it back to life. Basically, process you would use to restore an automobile. Sanding from 100 grit all the way up to 1500 grit. Wet sanding, polishing, buffing. So I'm really proud of this.
Think you put into something like that?
I've got probably close to 100 hours myself in restoring this sink. So a lot of these projects that we're gonna see, it's hard to explain, hard to convey how much work went into every little bit. But that's what makes this house and houses like this so special. Cabinets are all original. This, I painted them, but really my goal with the whole house was to keep as much of the original character as we could. I tried to change as few parts as possible, and things that I did have to change, I tried to rebuild or restore back to what, as far as I could tell, was the original intent. So again, cabinets are original. Really happy to be able to salvage those. A little bit of sanding and scraping and a new coat of paint. This room here, I used to call it the breakfast nook because I didn't know what else it was. We've got a dining room, we've got a kitchen. There's so many rooms in this house, I don't know what you do with all of them. But this is a really, really nice, bright sitting room now. Again, we're looking out. We've got the sun coming in. That's a west wall there. Sun sets in the backyard. You can sit in here in the evening and really enjoy a room full of light as the sun goes down. Again, we kept as much of the original touches as possible. You see the textured walls all throughout the house. Fortunately, the walls in here are original. It's plaster, all done by hand, obviously. A few areas in the house where we had to either repair the plaster or get in behind the plaster for mechanical reasons. I was fortunate enough to come across some really talented plaster and drywall guys that if we did have to tear any plaster out, we could go back in with drywall, patch it up, and recreate this texture that you see here on new drywall materials, with new drywall materials, and blend it in so you can't tell the difference. It was important to me to keep as much plaster in the house as possible. Plaster is generally a better quality building material than drywall is. It's just really hard to work with. It's pretty finicky. But we were able to keep a lot of it. Most all the house is the original plaster and lath construction. Just a little bit of drywall repairs where we had to go into a few walls and ceilings. This is one of the rooms that was the most daunting about this whole project. It's not that big, but it was very, very intimidating to walk into here after years of neglect. This wood was just crying out for attention. And I was really scared. I was really nervous. The first time I saw this room, I thought, oh my God, how are we gonna save this? I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do here. But I was fortunate enough to work with some really, really talented carpenters, finished carpenters, and just incredible craftsmen. To know what to do here, there's a little bit of experimenting to try it out, but thankfully, again, everything was salvaged, which was just beyond my best expectations. So sanding, back down to bare wood, take off the years and years of staining and sealers and other things that had gotten on the wood, fingerprints and dust and dirt, back down to bare wood, stain, seal. We had to do a few patches. There's a few patches. Some of the light fixtures had been removed, sort of unfortunately removed with a saw, which damaged some of the woodwork behind here. So deciding how to remedy that and keep the original intent was a big step. We didn't want to do anything that would hurt the feel of the room. Ended up we handmade some blocks here to cover that, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. But again, that was a major hurdle. There was a lot of problem solving that went into that one. Oh, this hardware is a journey. It's a story. All throughout the house, it's all original hardware. Hinges, whether decorative or functional, the hinges, the knobs, all of the brass and chrome accents you see on doors, cabinets, radiators is all original. It was in rough shape. I learned more about metal refinishing than I ever wanted to learn. I'll tell you that. But through some trial and error and hundreds of hours on a buffing and polishing wheel downstairs, we were able to save every piece of hardware and bring it back to life, which is, again, I don't know that I ever want to do that part of it again, but it was a good learning experience. Crown molding was in decent shape. It wasn't perfect. There was some chipping, some staining. It's plaster molding, which you'll see in a lot of these homes have. It's the same as the walls and ceilings would be plaster, almost a plaster of Paris type material, but it's pretty fragile. It's really susceptible to water damage. So if you ever have a ceiling leak or a pipe break or anything, plaster usually takes a beating. And it's also susceptible to chips and dings and dents. So to see original plaster in these homes is rare, and it's definitely to be appreciated. I was fortunate this was in pretty good shape. I also had some really talented help to repair it back up to where it should be. And then, as you see, it's been restored with some gold leaf, some paint, and a few very, very accurate touch-ups with some cool plaster tools.
Is that a hidden door right there?
A little bit of a secret compartment here. It doesn't go anywhere exciting. We're not going to an underground room or anything like that, but it's pretty cool to find a little secret door. It was well into the process of restoring this before I even found this. This would have been storage for plates, silverware, all your finest china, serving trays. Just think of this as a TV dinner tray before we had TVs.
You can fit a lot of food.
So you can fit a lot of food on there. So again, all in pretty good shape. A little bit of work, sand, stain, bring those all back to life. All original. Wow. All original. Yes, that was a great little accomplishment in the middle of all this, is to being able to save all those trays and shelves and button that up. So that was pretty cool. You'll see this throughout the house. There's thousands of square feet of this tile. This is Flint faience tile. It was made in Flint, Michigan for a brief period in the 20s to the mid 30s in a spark plug factory. It was a GM spark plug factory in Flint, Michigan. And the story that I got is they were wasting too much time shutting their kilns off at night. They were only making so many spark plugs. They had a lot of downtime and they would shut their kilns off at night. They actually needed something to keep those kilns going and keep everybody busy. They started making tile until World War II kicked off, and then they were full production of spark plugs and other ceramic materials. But this is just, it's pretty special to see this, how much of this tile is here. I've seen it in other homes in the neighborhood, all different colors and shapes and styles, and to be able to save it, because you can't replace it, to be able to bring it back to life. And I was really, really pleased we were able to breathe some life back into it.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're just leaving the dining room, walking into the front door hallway. You'll see these big double dining doors here, section off this room from what's going on over here. Original hardware again, original door, solid oak, 42 inches wide. That's a big door there. Again, plasterwork here, mostly all original. You see the cove ceiling, the arch ceilings, arch doorways. Sometimes that can be a big challenge when you're doing repairs. These are really hard to match. Again, fortunate to come across some talented craftsmen that could patch in a few places here. We needed access to a few of these for mechanical reasons and able to patch it right back up. The arched openings, hallways, doors are a key part of the original design. You see that everywhere throughout the house, from the exterior, and as we go through the interior, you'll see all of these arches. I think that was the architect's focus when he envisioned this place, is that the arches bring this sort of medieval Cotswold castle together, because you see the arch shapes and forms and all of this architecture, medieval architecture, that this house was modeled after. So the arches are a very important part of the feeling in here. Something to me that I was really proud of, am really proud of, is the brass detail we were able to capture and keep. You'll see these throughout the house on any of these radiators that have covers on them. This was not an easy feat. Again, just like everything else with this house, everything is difficult, but finding and producing brass wire to cover these things was difficult, definitely worth it.
Wow.
This is probably the coolest part of the house. It's my great room. So when you first walked in here, totally empty. What do you do with this room? Where we're gonna have, was it gonna be a jousting room where we're gonna have sword fights, suits of armor? It was actually pretty hard to envision what we're gonna do with this room. In addition to trying to envision what we're doing, a lot of this woodwork was in pretty rough shape. Not beyond repair, obviously, but looking at this railing, there was scratches and damage and gouges, and at one point I thought we were going to have to tear the railing out. It was bad enough. I thought, how are we gonna do this? But with a lot of dedication and hard work and tons of skill from some of these local guys, they were able to blend in by hand any of the damage, make it match the old stuff, and 4 coats of oil and lots of time and effort. This catwalk, the stairway, all of this woodwork was brought back to life. These light fixtures here are original to the house as far as I know. They were a bit daunting to look at when we first saw it. That's a mica lampshade. They're pretty fragile. They're still made today, but not very common. Back in 1925, these would have been very common in all aspects of lighting design. You saw them in table lamps, you saw them in chandeliers, wall sconces, all of that. They would have been very common. Today, they're hard to come by. These are original fixtures. I was pretty worried we weren't going to be able to save them. They were in rough shape. They were rusty and full of cobwebs, lots of cobwebs. But again, just with a little research and a lot of patience and careful attention, we were able to bring these back to life and salvage them. And I think they turned out great. Getting the cobwebs off, washing the probably 100 years worth of dust off of these things, and the hard work paid off. So we've got all these original. Luckily, all these delicate mica shades were in good enough condition to keep, which was a big bonus. We got a skylight here, pretty cool. It's the only skylight in the house. Big shout out to Robert and Melissa, who did a lot of the work on window restoration here. Robert climbed up there with a vacuum and a bucket on a ladder while Melissa held him steady and washed that window, scraped and vacuumed the cobwebs out of there like it was just another Tuesday morning. And I was down here watching like, oh boy, that is scary. Speaking of windows, I didn't have windows in the budget, but when looking at this place, the windows were all in pretty good shape. I've seen some of the neighbors' houses that had to spend an incredible amount of time and money on restoring their windows. They leaked. These ones, they didn't leak, not very many broken panes. They were in pretty good shape. But once we started bringing a couple of them just back to life, just brush them off, get a little coat of paint on, make sure there's no rust that's gonna catch us out later down the road in a few years. It was obvious that the right thing to do was to pay attention to all the windows on the whole house. Everything needed a little bit of work. Really, it was more preventative maintenance to get some paint on, keep these things rust-free so they can go for another 100 years. That was quite a task. That was about 6 or 8 weeks. I had some really, really talented help on that one. Robert and Melissa specialize in window restoration around the Detroit area, historic homes. So every window you see has been lovingly restored. Again, lucky it wasn't in terrible shape, and then you see storm windows everywhere in here. We've got wood storm windows in this room. These were, again, restored as we did all the woodwork in the house, brought these wood storm windows back to life. Other storm windows you see in the house are all new. They had to be all handmade. I've got 89 storm windows in addition to these wooden ones that really changed the way this house works. We keep the heat in, keep the sound out. That was a big improvement. It was also a lot of work, like everything else. Steam. So the heat system in this house is a steam radiator. There's a boiler in the basement. Here is one of 5 massive radiators in this room alone. There's no problem keeping this room warm when you want to. The bigger problem is feeding these guys with enough steam. There's an 800,000 BTU boiler down in the basement to heat this whole house. Again, no problem keeping the house warm when you want to. Really cranks it up, but she's hungry.
You got a racing background, huh?
I do.
Is this your car?
It was. I was a 2019. I worked on this car.
Let's talk about who the heck Ryan is, man.
I come from the racing industry. This is a car we won the championship with a few years ago, a sports car championship here in the US. I've been involved with racing all over the world, sports cars, NASCARs, Indy cars. That's my history. This house is what I do for fun. Home restoration is a hobby for me, these great projects, but my racing career, working on these race cars, building and maintaining and getting these things to perform right is what I made my career with. Here we have, I call it the library. This is the first room in the house that I got finished. I made this a little sanctuary. I sealed it off from the rest of the world here while we were doing construction. I had a chair and a TV tray in here. I could come in here, sit down, eat a meal, take a break from all the craziness that was going on out there. So this room has a pretty special place in my heart throughout the process of this house restoration. Obviously, it's full of books. That gives me a lot of joy too, is just to sit down and see all these books. Some have been read, some are yet to read, but that's what this room is for. You see up there, there's a very small 2-inch duct coming out of the wall. That is a high velocity AC system. Throughout the process here, we had access to walls, ceilings, areas that you normally wouldn't have access to. And we were able to install a space pack high velocity system on the 3rd floor in the attic and feed every single room in the house, which is very rare for one of these types of houses. It takes a lot of work to snake those vents through the walls and ceilings. So every single room in the house, there's 37 AC ducts. Every single room in the house is served by modern air conditioning. The house was made, a lot of these houses were made with airflow as the only option to affect the temperature throughout the house. So you would open windows on the lower floors in the morning, open windows on the upper floors. You'd get airflow through the house, and then as the sun comes up, as the morning goes on, normally you need to shut your windows to keep that hot air out. In a home like this, these big stone walls, big thick bricks everywhere, it'll hold the heat or hold the cool pretty well. So even without the AC, a lot of these rooms stay comfortable, but the AC makes a big difference, especially when we get into some of the living spaces. Moving upstairs here, this is a really cool, really unique spiral staircase. One thing you'll notice, I've got some broken tiles here. That's been a major hurdle. I have done literally a worldwide search for tile to repair this. I mentioned before, this stuff was all made in Flint, Michigan, 1925 to 1935. Not easy to come by. So there's no way I'm gonna get an original tile to repair that. I'm left with having to recreate it. I've talked to craftsmen around Detroit. I had a company in Wales, England. I've got folks in California working on it. So I think I found a solution here, but it's been quite a journey to try and find some stair tread, bullnose tiles that fit the bill. I call this room the office. We're right above the little library downstairs, directly in line here. I call this the office. This is a nice bright area to get some work done. Original bookcases, shelves, walls. It was a bit of work to restore this, but it could have been a lot worse. So I'm thankful that we were able to get this room back in tip-top shape here. In that corner, there's a rubber roof above us, a flat roof on an exterior porch. And it was starting to, the rubber membrane was starting to give up. And so you had just the first signs of water damage. You had some plaster damage there. Water had been coming through. And I mean, it would have been, I got the house in April. I think if you had gone into the summer without securing that, you would have had a lot of damage. So we were just probably a few months away from some pretty serious damage. And that goes, there's a few other spots on the house where there was maybe some missing flashing and missing slates on the roof. And it came pretty close to being a severe damage situation. So now we're getting into the bedroom portion. This is front hallway, front bedrooms. We've got 8 bedrooms now. Originally there was at least 10 bedrooms in the house. You'll see as we go, we've combined a couple into a larger suite. But this is the front hallway. And again, we see the arches here. This is the important design aspects, all original. This is all original plaster still. This is how the house was built to look, keeping these arches carry through the whole house. Here's a guest bedroom. This is the largest guest bedroom. You see here, originally the house was full of Jack and Jill bathrooms. There was a doorway here going into the bedroom on the other side. One of the few things I did in the renovation process is to reconfigure the bedroom on the other side of this. To do that, we needed to block this off. So I used some tile we salvaged from one of the other Jack and Jill bathrooms, configured exactly like this. Built a door. You'd never know there used to be a door here.
Wow.
One part of this whole process that was really important to me was, again, saving as much of the original fixtures and look and structure of the house as we could. These bath fixtures almost killed me. Trying to get the original bath fixtures to work. We've got all new plumbing in here. We full repipe on the sanitary sewer and the supply side. But trying to incorporate that with the original fixtures was a monumental task. So I know more about rebuilding antique historic plumbing fixtures than I ever wanted to. But we kept all the original pedestal sinks, original, able to replumb them with modern plumbing. And I did have to do replacement faucets. The stuff that was in here wasn't original anyway. So original replacement faucets, but original sink, and again, more all original faucets, handles, controls, shower valves, all that stuff has been.
And so I'm assuming that the other bathroom was similar to this, where you had the
Yes.
door.
Yes.
This one.
Yep.
Still has it. Right?
Still has a door. Yep. This would have been just like the other one. Different color tile over here. This is still the same tile we saw downstairs on the floor, the flint tile. No, obviously it's a different color. There was lots and lots of options there. All right, here is the master bedroom, the master suite. This is the only part of the house that is changed from the original design intent. We've got this area used to be its own bedroom. This would have been shared with, there was a Jack and Jill bathroom on the other side there. There would have been a separate entrance over there. In order to really optimize the space, combined 3 bedrooms here. There's so much space in this house. Why not take it all? This is where you're gonna spend most of your time. I wanted a sitting room attached to the master bedroom. This has been a wonderful little respite from all the work. I sealed this off. I started living in here when we were still doing construction. So I sealed this off from the rest of the house, stepping over construction materials and tools and all the chaos that was going on out here. This whole room was my little sanctuary. It was like a dorm room for about a year while I lived here while construction was going on, and I had everything I needed in here. This bathroom, this was important to me to have a modern bathroom with a big feel. I can't imagine, it's always amazed me that some of these giant mansions, these old houses, the millionaires at the times, the fanciest bathrooms they had, they still used a pedestal sink. There's barely enough room to set your toothbrush down. So it was important for me to make this a little bit more practical. So not original, hopefully keeping with the style of the house. We've done a lot of work with vanity and new tile, flooring and wall here. And then it was really important to me to optimize the shower space.
Nice.
So we've got 5 other bathtubs in the house. If you want to take a bath, you can walk across the hall. Again, so many bedrooms in the house, you don't need all those bedrooms. Why not optimize the space for something a little more practical? So we made this full walk-in dressing room, very, very functional. I mean, this whole thing is like the butler's quarters. So you had the butler's kitchen, and then this whole wing of the house and the 3rd floor was meant, there was bedrooms, bathrooms, living quarters for butlers, as many as you would want here. One of the really interesting pieces of history I found about this house is the guy that it was built for was a GM auto executive, Chester Souther, built by Leonard Willkie, who's a fairly famous architect. He did a lot of work in Detroit and Cleveland. A lot of commercial buildings. He only has a few residentials. He's got his own personal residence over in Grosse Pointe. And then this is another one of his his crowning achievements in the Detroit area. Built it for a GM tax executive, started construction, I think broke ground in 1924, completed construction in 1925. The little bit of information I was able to find talks about how many people lived in the house. And as the years went on, the Depression kicked off. We get a little bit further down the road, this guy's kids start moving back in with him. Pretty soon the house is back full. All of his kids that had moved out are now back living here as adults. And it talks about the butler staff and how they, before the Depression, they were flush with butlers. As the Depression went on, pretty soon they whittled them down and they couldn't afford to keep any more butlers here. So they brought the family back in, and the story kind of ends there. I haven't found much more. As we get into the middle of the Depression, I kind of lose track of the family that lived here and what happened after that. I'm sure there's more information buried out there. I think the University Library in Ann Arbor has a really good historic section in their library. There may be more information in there, but I know that it's hard to come by. So just a couple of bedrooms out here if you want. Again, there's so many bedrooms in the house. It's just Let's do something practical. So another little office over here if you're working from home, and a little workout room on this side. It was important to me to make space for a washer and dryer up here. There's no reason to walk down 2 flights of stairs to go into the basement to do your laundry. With the layout of the house, the architecture and the structure, it was fairly easy to get this installed here, plumbed. Plumbing was already here, but vent this and go straight up through the roof, vent it, great access. So this is a big upgrade from having to go down to the basement to do your laundry. This is an original cabinet structure. Made some modifications to it. It was floor to ceiling, just cabinets. Made it a little more practical, especially if you're doing laundry, somewhere to set laundry baskets and fold some clothes and stuff. So made a usable countertop here, got rid of some of the extra cabinets you don't need, and just make it a little more practical for what we're doing. Out here, it's hard to see now. Nobody wants to go out there when it's this cold out. Picture the sun shining and some lawn chairs and some picnic tables out here. This is a flat roof porch area. It's situated over the garage. Really nice spot just for summer entertaining and enjoying the nice weather outside.
What's that there? Is that yours?
That is, well, it is mine now. That's a birdhouse. That's probably the biggest birdhouse you've ever seen.
I think it's huge, man.
I tried to get it out of here. I couldn't lift it. I had a crane in here doing some other stuff, and we tried to move that with no luck. So we've got a permanent birdhouse here. And going on up to the 3rd floor here. So it's like the house that never ends. So more room up here. Again, all the room you could ever want in this house. We've got a full bathroom up here. It's all original, restored as best I could to fully functional. Again, more work on the shower valves and all the plumbing to keep this as original as we could, but yet functional. And then just more bedroom space. So this is all original flooring up here. We were able to save all of it. Again, doors, even the light fixtures in this room are original. Brought them back to life in part of the polishing and buffing process. I call it the upstairs living room. This would make a great movie theater or something. Originally, this would have all just been attic space. This was not originally finished when the home was built. You see more attic rafters. This is the roof going up here. It's been finished space for a long time, well before I got it. This here, another little, just more nooks and crannies everywhere. Just another little room in here. But here we have, I've referred to this door as the Hobbit door. It's a little pint-sized folks to come in and out of. But you have access, again, to another roof porch out here. Picture some chairs and tables up here. Nice summer night. One thing that's just incredible to see is the slates on this roof. I mean, you're up close and personal with the slates going up. This is the roof over the great room right here, and then we've got the rest of the house. Roof goes up this way, but you're eye level with the original roof and the construction materials, and it's just wild to see.
Is it true that slate roofs can last forever?
So a normal slate roof has a lifespan of somewhere around 100 years. The slates on this house are 3 times thicker than a normal slate roof. So we're looking at a 200-year lifespan on this roof with proper maintenance, which is pretty incredible. And also, think about how much this roof weighs. I've held some of these slates that we've taken off, worked on, replaced. Hundreds of pounds. Some of them are 100 pounds each, and there's thousands of them. Think about how much this roof weighs. It's crazy. At one point, we had every single door in the house down here in the basement. This was our little door refinishing factory down here. It worked really well for that. It kept us warm in the winter, cool in the summer, and it was quite the little assembly line. Here we have what I lovingly refer to as the dungeon.
What the heck is this?
So this is crawl space area under the great room. So everything above us here is the great room with the fireplace down on the far end. All that expansive tile floor right above us.
How thick do you think this concrete is?
Man, this is crazy. So one of the coolest things about this room If you could see it here, you see the lines and the texture. So they would have built these concrete forms with 2x6s. You can see the wood grain and the texture formed into the concrete from the original forms they used to build all this. To me, that's just wild. Man, one of the greatest parts of this whole journey has been the people I met along the way. It's been just an incredible reception by the neighborhood, by the neighbors. A lot of the neighbors that live here have gone through the same process at some point in the history of their house, in the history of them living here. So there's a lot of community built around that, just getting together and telling war stories about who had more raccoons in their attic or whatever. But it's been a great reception by the neighbors. They were really thankful that somebody wanted to come in and do what it takes to restore this house. This house has been, it's a cornerstone of the neighborhood, literally and figuratively. It's the only stone house in the whole, it's the only fully all stone house in the whole neighborhood. And it is a corner lot. It's in a prominent corner lot near the entrance of the neighborhood. Everybody's familiar with it. And it kind of sets the tone for what you expect as you drive or walk further back into the neighborhood. So the neighbors are really, really great. They're so passionate about the neighborhood and the community in general. There's huge diversity here. There's folks that have been here. I talked to a guy the other day who grew up in the neighborhood. He used to play hide and seek in this house while he was growing up, and just recently moved back in to the house he grew up in to help take care of his dad as his dad gets older. So you've got people that have been here for literally their whole life, and you've got other folks that are coming in that just want to be a part of sort of this historic neighborhood. There's no tighter knit community than the historic neighborhoods we have around Detroit. Advice for somebody else thinking about this is don't take it lightly. It is not an easy task. It's not cheap. There's no way to do this inexpensively. It's very rewarding. It's been a great journey. I've built a lot of character along the way, good or bad. And I've learned a lot because I did a lot of the work myself. I've learned a lot of the little secrets about working on historic homes. A lot of these skills are really hard to come by. It's hard to find the guys that do this kind of thing. So anybody that's thinking about taking on a project like this, yeah, just don't take the decision lightly. It's more work and more money than you think it will be. And for anybody that's looking to move into a home that's already been renovated, just go carefully. There's some people out there that like to cut corners, like with everything, but these homes are really difficult to do. So make sure you know what you're getting into there. But it's a crazy, crazy journey, very rewarding when you're done.